Morning, guys. What's going on? What a Masters, huh? Great week. Um, some cool stuff that came out of it, right? Jason Day's clothing, Tiger obviously playing 72 holes and seeing what that was like, and then Scotty just running away from the field. Um, the best part about Scotty's game right now is he looks like Tiger at his prime. He's not doing anything out of the ordinary. He's not taking chances. He's just playing his solid station to station game and waiting for everybody around him to implode, right? Um, 11 under par, that's solid at Augusta, but it's not blowing it away. Um, but yeah, he just kind of kept on and kept plugging and kept playing, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch a guy like him who's not a big technology guy, who's got a homemade swing. His footwork would be classified by most teachers as terrible, right? He's all over the place, but it's all after the ball's gone. And we've talked about that a lot of times. Stuff that I would say during lessons and fittings is just let it go. You're trying to control your golf swing. By the time anything that you feel and think of catches up, the ball's long gone. And that's what Scotty knows, and he sticks to what he knows, and he just keeps going out there and doing his thing. 6 under after one round, and then slowly but surely just kind of maintaining, right? Back when Tiger was in his prime, you saw him shoot 65 or 66, but you don't remember hearing too many of Tiger's 62, 61, 60. He didn't take the chances that it takes to go that low. But it was still fun to watch, as mechanical and as methodical as it was. I saw a thing today on MyGolfSpy about Jason Day's apparel. Um, they were going on and on about how if Tony Finau was wearing a check Nike swoosh, it wouldn't have been a big deal. And I think they might be right, but I think they've got it wrong. I think the reason why Augusta asked him to take that off was because it copied a Masters player's badge from back in the day. You look at the old school scoreboards, it had the big M and then it went into little letters and then the big RS and then the number of the player's badge. So I think they took it as offense because they were calling it the Malbon Championship instead of the Masters Championship. I think if it would have said Spring Championship, I don't think anybody would have had a problem. I think it was kind of more of, I don't want to say copyright infringement, but hey, you're kind of playing on our past and you're trying to capitalize on something we've already done in the past. I think that's the thing that led them to take it off. But, who cares? It's their golf course. They can do what they want, and that's the best part about places like that, right? You have to know when you're going to play Augusta, if you take a fashion chance, there's a chance they're going to tell you to take it off or ask you to leave. Even as a spectator, they don't even let you call them spectators, they're patrons. It's just different there, and that's okay. That's what makes that place so special. Everybody has their different rules and the different things you can and can't do. There's golf courses around here that don't allow music. I don't agree with that. It's you have to find that happy medium and that compromise as to what works for you and your club and what doesn't. A perfect example is Caddyshack 2. Caddyshack 2, you can't wear cargo shorts and women can't wear leggings, right? That was from a golf pro that was way back. Bob the Builder thinks he's the best golf pro that they've ever had. Nobody ever talks about the fact that he stole everything out of the shop at 2 a.m. and kind of snuck out in the middle of the night, right? They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about how great of a golf pro he was. But, he was one of those guys that enforced rules. And if he was there today, I think he'd be banging his head against the wall because, Trash Bag Bob and the Pinto Pusher have allowed everybody to do whatever they want. A perfect example of the frustration in the history in the game of golf is the post that I asked. The question I asked had something like 48 responses, and 30 something of them say golf fashion has gone too far. And I don't agree with it, but I do in a way, right? You've heard me talking about this, and if you've listened to this podcast, time and place for everything. You know, there's a golf course where you can wear your shirt untucked and your hat backwards and your baggy clothes and your big logos and wear whatever the hell you want. There's golf courses to do that, right? They're public courses, and not all of them are public. Not all daily fee allows you to do that. Granite Links in Pine Hills is probably going to have a little bit stricter dress code than Green Harbor, for example, right? They're going to let guys get away with what they want to get away with because it's more about filling the tee times and taking in that dollar. Whereas a private club, their money is based on their dues. It's not based on their drinking. It's not based on the cart fees and this, that, and the other thing. Those are all extras, and it's plus, plus, plus. If your golf course can't afford to do the things that they've done in the past with just the dues, then there's something wrong with what they're charging. They did a membership drive at a lot of places, right? Spring Valley, Worcester Country Club, Caddyshack too. But the ones that stayed true to who they are and didn't let the new members come in and kind of dictate what goes on succeeded. The ones that didn't kind of turned into trash bags. Some of them even have new names and new owners, right? It's funny. I got a guy texting me, pictures of the 8th hole at Caddyshack with the bunker, and it used to be, manicured around the bunker, and the fairway shaped the bunker, and now they've cut corners to the point where they don't even mow the fairway anymore. It just comes to an end, and then the fairway starts again up by the green. But those are things that you do subtly over time, and if nobody says anything, they just continue to do more and more and more and more. Again, I was on one last year, and I kind of, got off topic and kind of got stuck on what people were talking about behind the scenes, and what that came down to was a lot of members complaining about Caddyshack too. So it gave me all kinds of material that just kind of gets stuck in neutral. So the only thing I'm going to say about Caddyshack 2 is what I said to them this morning. You can give me all these reasons and all these examples of how that they've lost touch to who they are, but all you have to do is look at the pin sheet for the 4-ball. If you're not embarrassed handing that pin sheet, that cartoon character pin sheet, to your guests for 7 days of where the hole locations are, then you're not a golfer. You don't care about the details of things that matter to golfers. 17 on at that place could be the difference of hitting it above the ridge and below the ridge. And, obviously conditions have gotten so soft there that it's not as big a deal and you can't work off humps and bumps. But that's what you saw at Augusta this weekend. Using the golf course and using the terrain and the pin sheets are so important to understand where to hit it. I have to hit this 20 on because the pin's 17 on and 15 on is a ridge that if I don't get it up, it's going to come back to the front of the green, and I don't want that putt up over the hill. That's what pin sheets are all about. They're not about knowing where the hole location is. Most of the time, especially at a place that's 100 years old without a lot of elevation changes, you know where the flag is. You just don't know exactly how many paces compared to that ridge. And that's what guys that are playing tournaments and that are really grinding, got a big nut from the Calcutta auction, you're playing for a lot of money, I want those details. So if you're a guy that's trying to say, well, how do I know what my club's doing? Pay attention to the tournaments. How detailed are they? Are they using pin sheets? Are they putting together a detailed rule sheet so you don't have to call the golf shop and ask the questions, right? It should be there right in front of you where the 4 guys in your group can flip the pin sheet over and see the rules. Okay, hole 17, this XYZ, you can't play from there. Hole 18, any flower beds throughout the golf course. And I'm not singling out Caddyshack on this one. I'm talking about everywhere. One of the most difficult things to do for a golf professional is mark ground under repair. But yes, that's a golf professional's job, not a superintendent's job, because a superintendent is going to have pride and say, oh, they should play around that. Well, no, golf pro is going to be like, you know what? That shouldn't be here. I always sided on the side of my group superintendent. And I, just because it was brown and dead didn't mean it was ground under repair. Another one that I laughed about during the club championship one day, I had a member kind of chirp me about an area that I didn't mark ground under repair. It was, if you've ever played Harmon, the fifth hole, the par five, runs alongside the second hole. And there was a spot behind the tee box that was kind of dead from a puddle. But guy hit it in there and he kind of chirped me, and I kind of started thinking about it. So when I got a chance the next time, I kind of walked out and I paced it off. It was 45 paces from the 100-yard marker in the middle of the fairway. So you were 45 paces offline. No, it's not ground under repair. But if you're in the middle of a fairway and you got wormholes everywhere and this, that, and the other thing, and you can't get a good lie, then yeah, there's going to be some spots that's going to be white and it's going to be painted ground under repair, because it's not supposed to be that. It's funny, you hear all the traditions about Augusta and how they spray paint stuff that they see as brown throughout the golf course. They spray paint it green to make it look good. I don't think they did that this week. I think this is probably the first time in years that they had that little bit of rain on Thursday morning, and I don't think they put water on the golf course for the next 5 days. They wanted it burnt, they wanted it brown. It finally played the way they wanted it. Um, and it played hard. You saw it. Guys went low the first day, but as soon as the wind picked up and it dried out, you usually see some 66, 67s on Sunday, and you didn't. So that's golf, right? It's being able to use the humps and bumps and find ways to play it into the safe spots. Yeah, I'm going to hit it up here, and if it doesn't come down, then yes, it's going to be a fast putt, but it's still on the green, and I don't have to worry about it. The other thing that I know you guys have seen last year, I kind of did a couple wedge episodes, and you get into that creativity. And the guys use the word, watching the Masters, watching the coverage, over and over again. You heard creativity. Guys are going high, guys are going low. For the average golfer, the 10, the 15, even up, especially up to the 20, they want the ball to go into the first cut. They want it sitting up a little bit, so that way they can get the club on the ball and they can get the ball up in the air. Tour players, it's the opposite. They'd rather have it be on those tight lies so they can hit those little nippy shots that take one hop and then check and then trickle out. Those guys are so good at controlling spin. There was a shot that Tiger hit on, I believe it was Saturday. I don't remember. I think it was the second hole, and I think it was him. I could be wrong. He hit a shot to the front left pin location on 2. He missed the green short right. Whoever he was playing with, I forget. I think it was Terrell Hatton, hit a ball that kind of trickled out and went past the hole. And then you saw Tiger hit that little nippy one that flew a little further and took that one hop and then just grabbed right by the hole. Those guys are so good at controlling spin and using the bounce or the leading edge. There's a difference. And hopefully one of these days I can get to a short game area. I know I've kind of talked about, shutting down the podcast. But I've kind of realized, none of my gear fits me. I'm basically starting from day one. I'm not supposed to be hitting balls or swinging the club. You see me get out there and swing the whip a little bit, but when we're at the point now where we're trying to figure out my hands and my feet, am I hurt or am I injured? And if it's just hurt, then we can play through it. If I'm injured, we got to figure out what's next. That's the problem with on and off the medication for me. A lot of times, I don't know. Has it done damage to the point where now we need to go in and repair it? Or is it just to the point where I got to suck it up and deal with the pain? So that's kind of where I'm at now. I go tomorrow for a checkup, and then next Wednesday is my next shot, and we'll see how I react to that. I'm not as healthy as I was last year because I'm not on prednisone. Prednisone numbs me. That's what makes me not feel the pain, whereas my shot shuts off my immune system completely, so it helps my body stop fighting itself. So we're getting back there. We're getting back to being me again and being comfortable with what I can and can't do, pushing myself. Obviously, right now, the fatigue is crazy because my body is fighting my immune system and shutting it down. So it's been tough, but I'm looking forward to it now. My dad being sick kind of opened my eyes. One of the things he said to my mother the other day, I just can't wait to get back on the golf course and play a few holes with my son. So it kind of hit home. Um, it's important to him. And so obviously now it's starting to be important to me again. So, but one of the things that I'm realizing is it's almost like starting from scratch, and I'm going to have to start over with, refitting myself. My gear, I've always played heavier rather than stiffer. I like to feel the head a little bit. I like to know what it's doing. So, to put it in perspective, I probably should have been playing like a 55 to 60 gram X Flex at my highest pace. But I love the Fujikura, the 757. It was 78 grams. So it played almost as stiff as X. So I played stiff. In my irons, um, I was always playing Dynamic Gold S400 as opposed to X100. A little stiffer than S3, a little heavier than S3, but not quite X. So I could feel that head at the bottom and help get a little bit of launch. When I eventually switched to Project X, I switched to 6.0, which is the same thing. It's kind of S plus. So these are all the things that I have to work through with my golf game to try to get back. I'm never going to be a scratch player again. If I can keep it under 5, I'll be happy. Shooting 75 every time out, whatever it is, what it is. I just don't hit it long enough anymore to make the birdies that I used to. Most par 5s, I was either on the green or up around the green, and it was a simple 2-putter up and down for birdie. And then a lot of par 4s, you put a wedge in my hand, and I'm pretty good. So there was a lot of, 4 birdies, six bogeys, couple over, or vice versa. 6 birdies, 4 bogeys, couple under rounds for me. I need to tighten that up now because I'm not going to make as many birdies. So now I have to be a little bit more careful about how many bogeys I make. So everybody wants to talk about the golf swing and the tech and this, that, and the other thing, but you watch the best players, they're field guys. Tiger never had TrackMan out there with him when he was hitting balls through the 2000s. We hadn't gotten to that point yet. He was just good enough to see spin rates and launch angles and all those things with his naked eye. He could do that for himself, and he could feel his way through his golf swings and his struggles. And then every time that he needed a checkup, he went to the best. Butch Harmon. You laugh. You see some of those teachers that he used after the fact. Yeah, they're still around, and they still got a few guys, but they're not the media hype or the story like they were when they were working with Tiger. Then you watch a guy like Scotty Scheffler who's out on the range warming up, no teacher behind him, no, TrackMan, nothing to say, hey, we got to catch up on this. It's not the greatest. He just goes about his business, hits balls the way he feels, and plays his way through things. And it's fun to watch, little simple putter change. That's kind of what I go back and forth to. You see, I have the Scotty Cameron Newport, like the one that he was putting with when he was struggling, and then I also have the TaylorMade Spider with that same sight line that he's looking at right now. A lot of times I feel like I'm better from 10 to 6 feet and in with the Spider, but I'm better with speed control and feel from that 15 to 20 foot range. So when I'm hitting it well and I have a lot of those putts for birdie, obviously I want to use the Newport. When I'm struggling and missing greens and I have a lot of putts, 10 feet and in to save par, I want to putt with the Spider. So it's little things that you do, and you see these guys with the equipment changes and this, that, the other thing, but they're not doing it just to do it. A lot of times you see guys that are making switches, and they're making switches just to say, it was time. I needed a different look. I needed to make a switch. Like Morikawa, he did it. He did it, I think, Friday, right? He putted with one on Thursday. I think he had a mallet, and then on Friday he went back to that Newport style. It's a TaylorMade version of it, but not very often you see that. You see guys, making switches pre-event. But again, the speed of the greens and the dryness of the greens at Augusta can get in guys' heads, and that might have been one of those things where you just felt like the ball was jumping off the putter face too much with that mallet. It has a lot to do with it. Speed and pace have a lot to do with feel. You know, I know I've done a lot of complaining about the greens over at Caddy Shack, and one of the things that people come back and, oh, the greens were fast today. I never had a problem with the speed of those greens. I thought they were always quick enough where it wasn't a problem. It was the mush and the playing plinko. You know, the balls just bouncing around because they don't roll, they don't dry them out, they don't verticut and do the things to get the grass growing like this. Instead, they still have it laying on top of each other. And even a straight putt at a lot of golf courses. One of the things that the new superintendent at my former employer, you know, one of the things that he said that first day that he got out on the greens, we had that L93 grass, which is very grainy, and it lays end over end. You could scrape up and you'd see it. So when somebody would move their feet the wrong way, you know, spike marks were a problem, but that wasn't his main concern. His main concern was first thing in the morning, even a putt that rolled straight and never really bounced or hopped off line, you could just see it wobbling a little bit from blade of grass to blade of grass. And that was something that he addressed right away. You know, he did it with verticutting and sanding and top dressing and doing all the things that had been ignored for a few years. His biggest issue was he tried to force and rush aeration in bad weather a couple times. And then when he dragged the sand, he kind of did some damage, and then it was playing catch up. You know, between that and the pump letting go out last year, we were playing catch up all the time. But yeah, you got to pick and choose where you cut corners and where you don't. And the greens are the last ones. You know, things like changing cups. You know, every time you pull out the cup and you fill the bottom with sand, it helps with the drainage and things like that. So there's more to it than just daily play of changing hole locations. There's maintenance practices of taking that piece out and letting some air escape that area for the day, and then putting sand back into it on the bottom layer. There's a lot to golf course maintenance that is just simple, mind-numbing, you know, repetitive steps that you have to do, right? Green Harbor last week did the Air 2G2 or whatever. G2, I don't know. It's a playoff R2D2, whatever exactly it is. It goes in about 10 inches and it shoots air throughout all of it. And one of the things that they talk about, they use the analogy, and I've said this, about when you aerate greens, you know, it's compact and it's compact and it's compact. And all of a sudden you pull out a hole and those roots are able to stretch their legs. That's the analogy that they used, right? They get to stretch out and run a little deeper. Every time you get a heavy rainstorm and water kind of sits, it shrinks the roots in the levels that they will go to look for water because they don't have to. You know, the last year at Harmon, we had, or my former employer, I don't like to use names, but we had a ton of rain, right? And it's not a great draining place. The greens are USGA spec, so they're going to drain a little bit better than a lot of places, but there's a ton of water underneath. You know, when they went in to dig the wells, they found enough well water down there that they could use Harmon alone just to water the entire Rockland town. So drainage is always a problem, you know. So we talked about the roots, and when they had the rain and all kinds of water in there, the root level shrunk by 3 inches, and it was having to go back to those practices to get the root levels to grow again. You know, there's a level to push. You know, there's Augusta, and then there's a level of good, and then there's a level of what you expect somewhere else. You know, it's only when those places that you hold in high esteem kind of start cutting corners that, you know, guys are going to complain. You know, the biggest frustration for me is when guys complain privately. You know, if you got something to say, stand up and say it. Don't be afraid. You know, a perfect example, you know, I had 48 guys vote on that Has Golf Fashion Gone Too Far? You know, 33 or 34 of them said yes. Then I asked yesterday, where's that line? And nobody had an answer. I asked the guys that voted no, is there a line, or are you guys okay with everything? Cut off shorts, cargo shorts, t-shirts, what's the line, and where do we draw that line? What's the type of club level? These are things that you have to think about. And most of the time when you can see clubs going the wrong way, it starts out on the golf course. When that turns into a bachelor party, it gets a little out of control. And I say most because you got a lot of high-end places that are new that are about the fun. Troubadour in Tennessee is one of them. Adios down in Boca. There basically are no rules. Boston Golf and Old Sandwich are a perfect example of that balance, right? It's funny, you ask the members at OS or BGC, what's the most important rule? What's the dress code? And they just look at you and say, don't be an idiot, right? They police themselves. You think if I showed up the first tee at OS next Saturday wearing that vest that Jason Day had on with those pants, I'm not going to hear it from everybody in my group? How about the other members on the driving range when I'm warming up? They're going to chirp me, and I'm going to say, okay, next time I go back, I'm not going to do that. But, it's when you start seeing clubs talk out of both sides of their mouth, and certain guys can do one thing and others can't do other, it turns into a free-for-all. And when you see the clubs that take the power, the management power out of the hands of their employees, that's when you have a problem, right? You get a perfect example, and I said I'm not going to keep bashing them, but they're the perfect example in my head, the more recent example in my head. But Caddyshack 2, you can't wear cargo shorts, you can't wear leggings, but then they show nights at the bar, and there's guys in the bar with jeans and hats backwards. So you can't have rules somewhere, rules on the golf course with no rules in the clubhouse, and expect things to stay the same. Club that I grew up at down on the water, they allowed jeans, they allowed certain things, but then once they let t-shirts be allowed in the clubhouse, first it was, well, it can't be a ratty t-shirt, it's not a big deal, they just don't have to have a collar. A lot of guys are coming from work, this, that, and the other thing. Right, well, then you get that guy that's at the bar and he says, all right, I'm going to go play 9 holes, and then he goes and plays 9 holes in that t-shirt. Well, the golf pro is not allowed to go out and tell him you can't do that. And anytime he does, they just go to the board and whine, and then they win. So there has to be rules in the clubs that stay true to who they are. You see guys from back in the 80s at Caddyshack 2 wearing jackets everywhere they went. That was the rule. You had to have a jacket upstairs at dinner. But that was before they ran every bartender that they hire out of town from the downstairs bar. They bitch and moan that they can't find any help, but anytime they find help, they run them off. So that's the other thing. You look at these high-end clubs and not even high-end, these private clubs that stay true to who they are, they have help that have been there forever because their staff, they might not make the best money, but the connections that they have through the game saves them so much. How many car dealers hook up their employees with decent prices? How many insurance adjusters says, come to me, I'll take care of you? How many real estate agents, drop their commission to the friends and family plan for staff that have been there forever? I use Nicky at OS in all of his guys in the locker room. They've been there forever. You never see certain clubs looking for help online. It's because they know their guys are coming back. And when their guys don't come back, it's usually for a health issue or because they retired or whatever. And they've got 30 guys that are willing to fill that spot because they know how good that place is. And then you get the ones that pay well and tip well. Those guys will never leave, But again, it's one of those things where you have to have the conversation as to where the line has to be drawn to, golf, social, apparel, equipment, gear, all this swag stuff. Where is the line? Where have you gone too far to the point where now you go to a club and you look like an idiot? There's certain things that I would wear at BG and OS that I would never wear at the Country Club, Catanset, or Dedham. It's just, there's certain clubs that where you are, and the clubs that stay true to who they are the clubs that stay true to who they are and stay successful. Unfortunately, too many clubs end up with Trash Bag Bob and the Pinto Pusher as their presidents, GMs, and the guys making the decisions. And they are micromanaging their golf professionals, their food and beverage manager, their chef, and their superintendents to the point where the people who get and care about golf no longer have say in what goes on in the rules. So, all right, guys, I didn't expect to do 30 minutes just like that. See how easy it is when I start talking golf and you guys chime in behind the scenes and we have something to talk about. It makes life easy. Again, I know I've kind of been back and forth. I know I've been talking about shutting down the podcast, picking up the podcast, and I get it. I've been all over the place. I understand that. But, my health issues and my father going into the hospital have kind of been all over the place and up and down. And this is just kind of giving me something to rant about and take my mind off life a little bit, right? I'm excited to get back to reality and join the world. I just need my doctor to say I can. It sucks, It's one of those things where I would much rather be out working 1,000 hours than sitting here in this chair ranting, but it's out of my hands right now. So we'll see what happens. Again, like I said, there's a chance I'll be fitting myself soon, and I'm talking full bag, soup to nuts. I'm going to probably end up in a player's distance type iron, P770, T200, T150, Callaway Apex, that style, Cobra Forge Tech with stronger lofts. So I may have to reevaluate even my wedges. And it sucks because I was fit by Bob Vokey, and it's tough to make that change. But I think we're there. So what better way than to record myself and have you guys watch me put myself through it? How little I pay attention to numbers and how much I pay attention to feel. A lot of shafts, there's going to be 4 or 5 that are going to do about the same thing numbers wise. I just have to decide which one feels right. And you guys are going to be with me every step of the way. I think it'd be a cool thing for you guys to watch and an educational thing for you guys to watch. And who knows, it may help you to get out of your own way when you're taking a lesson or getting fit. That's what I think a lot of the guys that come to me or came to me, and it was one of the most frustrating things as a teacher, watching students say, yeah, I tried it for a couple of days, but I just felt like it was uncomfortable. And then I had a tournament, so I had to go play, and I did it my own way. Well, it doesn't happen overnight. You see me, I'm still doing the same drills that I do every single time I go to the range, getting that separation and getting that club one piece takeaway and getting it out away from me. It doesn't go away. Your miss doesn't go away. I can still, one of the guys that I used to teach, Dave, tall guy, should have all kinds of speed and all kinds of length, but he, kind of crunches up and gets out on his toes and gets over the top. And it's, every time he came to me, it was getting him to sit on his heels and turn the right way, let those long arms get extended and get out away from you and get that power and the speed. You got to keep your hands in tight to here, and then you get extended, and then it's just so much to the golf swing that it's so hard to get students to listen to what you're trying to describe and understand the feelings without seeing it. So, a lot of times you'll see me going to videos of golf pros and thoughts and feels. Most of the time, the feels that I'm talking about aren't going to happen. You don't see me taking it back like Jim Furyk and rerouting it, but I feel like I am. And it gets me into a good position because I'm so extreme the wrong way. And all it takes is one time to go back the wrong way and one day to get back going bad on the golf course. And it's bad until I go back and fix it. So, again, if you guys want to talk golf, if you got anything you want to hear about, anything you want to see about, ask, right? I can see corners cut at golf courses, superintendents are going to cut as many corners as they can right now because the budgets are tight and cost is expensive. But at what expense are they doing it? I don't think the 8th fairway not going around that bunker is a big deal at Caddyshack too. But I do think not aerifying greens and not top dressing and not verticutting and overwatering with no drainage is. So there's different things at every golf course that superintendents, yeah, they're going to cut corners and they have to. Where is it at the detriment of play? And that's the ones that don't play golf don't get it. You know, it was cool. The one cool thing about Harmon was we encouraged staff to play golf, and every Tuesday the superintendent, the owner, and the GM went out and played golf. You know, every once in a while they'd bring out Tom, the director of golf, and he'd point out things that he wishes was different and why, and then they'd talk about the costs related to that and what it would take and what it would do to the golf course if they changed it. You know, unfortunately, when you get at a club where there's no discussion, you get one guy's opinion. And if he's not a golfer and if he says things like, I don't care about that, about a cartoon character hole location sheet for a tournament where you're playing for 30 grand, it should tell you a lot about what your club is and where your club is status wise and what they're thinking about behind the scenes. So it is what it is. I just wish a lot of owners and board of directors would just get out of the way of the people that you hire to do a job and let them do the job. All right, guys. Hopefully next time I talk, it'll be coming from a driving range where I'm trying maybe a couple different clubs and seeing what I like and talking you through it. But until then, let's go.